What's good, King Gonda? It's your boy Oshay Duke Jackson, back at it again with another collaboration here in the Diaspora, and I have one of my favorite YouTubers up and coming in the space. She's very, very opinionated. She doesn't care what you think about her opinions either. And as you can see, she's very, very good looking, and we're glad to have her, the one, the only, the AfrikanUniteForce YouTube channel. And go ahead and explain what your channel is about and who you are and all that stuff.
Thank you so much, Brother Oshay Duke Jackson. I really thank you for the opportunity that you've given me to be on your platform. AfrikanUniteForce channel is all about bridging the gap with continental Africans, with Africans from the diaspora, and also the miseducation about Africa, and to teach about spirituality, ancient African educational system, what we really are and what we are all about, and it's high time for us to start unraveling those lies, that have been told about us for a long period of time. So I think we need to wake our people up and let them know what time it is. So I think my channel is pretty much all about that. Yeah, and many more into Africa to the world.
I thought I was controversial, and then I started watching you, and I at first it was some things like, ooh, this is rather cutting deep. And then I one thing I like about you is most YouTubers don't put out the positions that you do as strongly as you do, but it's very, very well thought out. And one thing I like about you is you're balanced. You have heat for the men and also the women. You have heat for the African diaspora, African Americans, continental Africans. You pretty much set them all out and you knock them all down, and you're unbiased in your approach. And I believe that you're very, very fair in that. And one of the things I like about you is you don't like complainers. And obviously, one thing that the Black community worldwide has, whether it's in Europe or Black America, is we complain about Black America and the problems, and we complain about the problems in Africa. And one thing that I've noticed, I'm from the Black community, we have a lot of businesses that are Korean that are in there. We have a lot of businesses that are operated by Indians that are in there, but yet you have a lot of people complaining. And just like in Africa, why are there so many complainings about what's going on the African continent?
Well, what I think is a complaint is because of first miseducation. Because when we don't understand who we are, what we are, and what we have, we might be sitting in the midst of so much, and then we will be complaining about everything instead of looking inwardly of what we have and then make the most out of it and use it. I do believe that Africa is a continent. Of course, we know the history about slavery, we know the history about colonization, we know all of that. But currently now we are living in the 21st century where we need to sit down and think about solutions instead of complaining about the same old issues, the same old things that have been happening, and then we, at this point, whatever thing that is happening, I'm going to say it is our fault and we are the one allowing it to happen at this particular point in time. So what we need to do is to stop the complaints about everything and start looking towards the area of solution. Now, African continent is, the continent of Africa is actually developing. Of course, it is not perfect, but what can we do? What can we add? How can we be able to, contribute, to the growth of the continent of Africa? Because I do believe that's the only place we can be free and we can call home. So except we see Africa as home, then we can always be complaining. When something is not right in your home, what you do, you fix it. You don't wait for outsiders to come and fix it. You don't wait for, you don't sit down and just complain. I'll give you an instance, right? So if you have a problem with a pipeline, maybe in your sink or whatever, and then I think that you might need to call the plumber diploma to come and fix it, or if you have the knowledge to do that, you can do that instead of just sitting down and complaining, oh, this thing again, oh, what is this, all of that. I mean, you're only going to is the issue, first of all, is not going to solve, and the problem is still going to be there. So you see, so that is what we need to do. We need to look for solution. How can we fix the issues that we are facing? How can we fix this problem? Because it's a call on all of us. Sitting down and complaining will not solve anything. Let's look into the era of slavery, the era of colonization. Up until we know, of course, what happened, we know everything. But look at the space of time. We have been complaining and pointing fingers. We have been complaining, and blaming. We have been complaining and doing all of this. What has changed? Absolutely nothing. Change does not come through complaints. Change comes when you sit down and make the right decision and make the right choice and back it up with actions. I think that is what I think we should do when it comes to the continent of Africa.
You mentioned something very important, and I believe that it's a gem. I don't know if anybody else caught it, but you said a lot of us were miseducated on who we are. And because we don't know who we are as a people, we don't know what we're sitting on, because you can be a person that has all the talent in the world, all the resources in the world. But if you don't understand that you are who you are, you come from a great people, you have the knowledge and you have the talent to do what everybody else can do, then it doesn't matter. You can't amplify what you have. Why do you think that the Africans on the continent and even the Africans in the diaspora, why don't we understand the knowledge of self, and we're miseducated as a people?
Right. Of course, again, it all goes back to, our educational system, right? And what really transpired, which is I'm very much pressing on the African educational system, depending on an Asian or an African educational system with an African curriculum, everything that has to, to do with Africa. Now, the reason why a lot of us are not amplifying that, or we are still, miseducated, is because who is educating us? Who are we leaving? Who are we leaving? Well, in the continent of Africa, mind you, the vast majority of Africans are educated through a Western system of education.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when that happens, is that I don't believe that the Western system of education or curriculum, what they've done is they've brainwashed Africans over the years, and when you are brainwashed, it is easy for them to control you. Why? Because you now see the same people. Because I don't want to blame, I don't want to do nothing. I just want to say, let us stand up on our grounds and start re-educating ourselves and unlearning certain things. For how long are we going to keep depending on the Western system of education? Slavery and colonization ended a long time ago. Why do we still have, all of this curriculum? Why do we still have religious knowledge in place of history? Because I remember back in Nigeria, in place of history, they took it out, they banned it. I mean, they took it out. In place of history, we have religious knowledge. You see, so these are part of the miseducation that we have in the continent of Africa. And also, you see, our children, they're learning about, about Europe, about America, about all of these places. They're learning about, the longest river, in the world, all of this knowledge that are not useful to us. So these are the things that they are brainwashing our people, because as long as we keep or we remain brainwashed, it is impossible for us to see opportunities. It is impossible for us to see that the West and Europe, they need us and not the other way around. It is impossible for us to see that we can stand up and stand up and build Africa on our own without any help from outside world. But again, it all boils down to our educational system, which was targeted, prior before, doing slavery and colonization. So that needs to change.
Let me ask you this. And you summed it up very, very profoundly. You know, in the United States, and I believe even the United Kingdom, but I'll just use the United States, the best performing group, it's not whites, it's not Asians, it's Nigerian Americans. By far, they're the most educated, they're the most successful. If you were to, compare them against any other group in America, although they're about 2 or 3 million, but they're doing the best out of everybody. And then when you talk to successful Nigerians in America, I know many of them watch this channel. You talk to successful Nigerians that are in Britain, what you'll hear is, well, I left Nigeria or other countries, wherever Uganda, they're in the West, because the opportunities were not there. There was corruption. There were problems in the government. And, for me to transition back there, it's too risky. And I mean, I love my country. And these are some of the people that I see all the time that do the most complaining. And they're usually the people that do the best in America. And they actually were the ones, when you ask about Africa, they're like, oh no, bro, you don't want to go there. Things are much better here. I mean, look at what I'm doing here. It's very, very difficult for me to do this there. And, some people will say it, some people won't. But they'll point to, Africa has this problem with corruption. They have this problem with other things. And the West is where they've built their wealth. They've built their situations at. And when it comes back to coming back to Uganda or coming back to Ghana, they would like to, but then again, it's risky. Then again, the country still has problems. What would you tell the people who obviously have proven that they are talented someplace else, and they're doing very, very well someplace else, but yet they make these points that, some people can't disagree with. There are problems in corruption and things like that. What would you tell them?
Well, let's start with the Nigerians, because you use Nigerian as an example. I'm a Nigerian,
right?
Artificially, the term Nigeria, of course. So, I mean, let's start with the Nigerians now. You said they're the most educated in America in this
Yes.
side, but I beg to differ. Because I like redefining things, and I don't go by the concept and by the terminology of the West and all of those things, how they define things and how they've made it global. That this is generally and globally acceptable. I don't deal with that, and I do not. I have to challenge some of those thoughts or most of those thoughts. I redefine things. Now, when you talk about Nigerians being one of the most educated, let me rephrase it. Because I'm a Nigerian, I hold our people and myself very accountable. I'm going to say that Nigerians are the most brainwashed. You see, I'm just saying. Okay. Because again, and then you're talking about, they always complain, for instance, Nigeria has a lot of challenge when it comes to the political settings, right? It has not been they've not gotten that part right. They talked about corruption, they talk about all of these things, it is dangerous, it is all of that. Now, who is making, that's why I want our people, when you travel to Europe and the West, to get brainwashed thinking that you are educated, you have a lot of little comfort, and places and things like that. They make comfortable in Europe and the West. You have to think outside of the box, and you have to see the bigger picture. Now, what are they doing? The same people, who are these people teaching you? The same people who colonized you. They are the same people who have set up this standard, make your continent a living hell. Why? So that you will run to the West, and work for them. At this point in time, you're doing it voluntarily. And what they do, they cause a lot of havoc. They cause a lot of, war in the continent of Africa, so that you will run over to the West, thinking that that place is better, while you leave your continent full of gold, full of, that has pretty much all the natural resources that Europe and the West, they need. And what is going to happen is that Europe and the Europeans, are here, and of course the Asians, the Chinese, I don't like them, but I'm just stating facts. Of course, they're in the continent of Africa, stealing all of these things, stealing your natural resources, while you are in Europe, you're a little bit comfortable, and then you'll be complaining about who is causing the continent of Africa to have all these insecurities, and who is going to stand up and defend, who is going to stand up, to these people for total freedom. So we are not really free. So what is going to happen is that eventually these diaspora Africans, particularly the Nigerians, they will be left in Europe and the West, while the Chinese and the Europeans will end up, taking Africa to themselves. So this is what they want to do. They want they want to leave you there in Europe and the West, while they want Africa to themselves. And this is only going to happen by our choice and our decision. And we are the ones making this choice and decision willingly. It was not, we are not on chains, but mentally, of course, we are not free. We are in chains. So now we have a choice to re-educate ourselves. Are you going to school, because to just go and recite things, or you're truly going to, be educated? I don't believe in this system of education, because the system of education that we are operating on is a defaulted one. It's all about theory, and doesn't produce nothing. But we Africans, back in the days, it's all about practical. But now they shifted us, our ideologies and everything, from being practical to being theoretical. So you see, that is why we have little results. So Africans have been sold. They've sold Europe to Africans. And they think that Europe is all that, beautiful, is all that it is drifting off of milk and honey. So that is why our educational system here in Africa, I believe they are in collaboration, or I don't know, in agreement, or they have a contract with the African puppet rulers, so that the educational system will really be bad. They will not, do anything, so that Africans will be heading to the West and Europe, because it starts again with the leaders. They study in Europe, and who educated them, who brainwashed them? It is the same European who did, you see. And that is why their kids and their families, they are all taking medication, and they are being educated again by the Europeans. That is why the African leaders are so weak. They cannot stand up to the people who has prepared them for life, education-wise, who has, taught them how to behave, how to act, culturally and everything. We are losing our culture for the West. And you see, at this point in time, they are too weak to stand up to the Europeans, because they cannot challenge the same people, who has given them that false narrative that you cannot do anything or build or stand up on your own without us. So that's what I think.
Wow, you summed it up very well, and I like how you pivoted the point about how, if they were really educated, they would be on the continent and not in the system that has brainwashed them. That's a very strong point. Let me talk about this, because I'm I guess one would consider me an African in the diaspora. I'm an African, what is considered African American, and my family and my we've been in the United States for hundreds of years. We were the children of the slaves, and in my generation, I'm the first generation that has been wanting to learn about Africa. And I've made the trip, and my thought process has changed. Obviously, we've had people such as Malcolm X, and Dr. Carter G. Woodson, and people like that was trying to change the scope of the mentality of us to understand who we were as a people. But we have many people now who are watching, people like yourself on YouTube, and African Americans who, obviously we may have had some strife, with the African community in America, and we're looking for solutions to, we want to come to Africa and learn or work with the diaspora community to help the continent and to help develop where we were taken from, and also I want to ask a twofold question. There are tribes on the continent, actually in countries, that have been having these issues, and that keeps them from working together. How do we get past the diaspora and the tribalism to move the continent forward to more progressive and solving more problems?
It will be really delusional if you think that we are just going to unite just like that.
Right.
It is not about the mass, because I tell people, even if I am promoting unity, but we have to be realistic when it comes to uniting our people. Now, first of all, continental Africans are unable to even unite just one country, right? Just one country. For instance, let me use Nigeria. Now, Nigeria has about 300 plus something, different tribes. Now, how can you unite? There are still tribal wars and tribal issues that, that is still going on. But this is, pertaining to the rest of the continent of Africa to different countries. You still have that type of challenges, and things like that. But now the question is, Africans are unable, they are tribalistic by nature. So saying that, you want to unite, we are unable to unite together as Africans to bring us together in one umbrella where we can be able to work together. I don't think that is even possible because one, that is a Eurocentric ideology. A Eurocentric ideology whereby they studied Africa very well and they asked themselves, how can we make them, how can we, make them fight themselves? How can we make them, to have these issues that they're having? So they saw that we are very tribalistic, we have kingdoms, we have all of these things, right? And each kingdom, they respect each other kingdom, and we have, warriors, people who protect each of their kingdom. We have kings. So what they did is that they summed us all together and they put us in one box, and that's where we got the name Africa. You see, and until Africa or Africans, they divide into those, denomination kingdoms, all of those things, we come back to that point, which I think it is difficult at this point in time. But if with the right education to our people, especially, particularly the younger minds, if we can target them young, because the older people, they are already far gone, brainwashed, it will be so difficult. Now, bringing the diaspora into this scenario is a different ball game, because we have to be realistic about our issues and and tell ourselves the truth. Now, when we are talking about cultural difference now, of course, in the continent of Africa, we have, the culture might be a little bit similar, but there's still difference, Now, bringing the diaspora in, realistically, do I think that, we can all come together, work together, and there's going to be conflict. There's really going to be conflict on different occasions or on different levels. So we can actually, set up a standard or set up something, a constitution or something that we can actually agree on something and work together respectfully, where you can respect this person. We don't necessarily need to come together before we can work together. We don't necessarily need to do that, but we can set up something, a structure or something that can make us, to see the overall goal, where we need to all, do our quota, bring our quota and see where we can come, sit on the round table and talk about how can we put certain of these things behind us. We don't need to, accept like, really, really fuse or connect or unite like this, you see, because that word unite, I don't understand. Like when you say unite, on what terms are we uniting? On what terms are we coming together? So we need a common ground of understanding so that we can actually respect each other and see how we can, what we can do to work together. Because at this point in time, we need to work together to get that, to achieve that goal, that common goal that we all want. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to unite or just, be together. We can be together from the diaspora and continental Africa. We can still be together. For those who want to move to the continent, they can still move, but we can still find a common ground where we can work together, where we can encourage each other, where we can support each other business-wise, support trade with one another and do all of these things. These are some of the common grounds. But to say everybody, that would be so ridiculous that everybody should move to Africa and this, no. Because first of all, we have a cultural issue. And if that is not addressed, and all of the trauma and the mental issues, that a lot of things that we've gone through is going to clash, and it might be, they might use that as a weapon against us. So let's be smart when we are doing and making certain decisions. Let's be smart when we are talking about certain issues that we are facing. Let's deal with the issues and take off emotions and feelings. That's my take on that.
Wow, it's a very excellent take. Also, one of the things you talked about was solving problems. And when I was listening to you on that stream, I was just thinking about me trying to go to Uganda and set things up. It took me like 11 times to finally get what I was trying to do. This channel actually was terrible for so long, right? And me and Jonita we would stay up and try to figure out what we could do, what we couldn't do. And then we tried to find out what were the problems And one of the problems is we just didn't have the equipment to put out the videos the same day. So we had to solve the problems to be able to make the channel functional, to be able to make it a resource, to be able to make it have some value. And when I was listening to you talking about solving problems and using those problems to create an opportunity, and I thought, I was like, this is the truth, because I actually had a guy here on the channel that I believe he started like a travel company, just like Airbnb in Uganda. And that's exactly what he's doing. And one of the things is that a lot of people in Uganda didn't have credit cards. So what he did was he basically set up something that used mobile money in Uganda, and 98% of his business comes from Uganda, and he's doing really well. But when it comes to solving problems to create opportunities, why do you think we have a problem with this? Because obviously that means more money, that means more success, that means more ownership. Why do you think that we have so many problems with solving the issues that could help our people?
I think that first of all, we need to start thinking group-wise, right? Just like the Chinese. I'm just giving an instance with the Chinese, right? And like you stated with your business, when you wanted to start the channel or do something, right? It took you a while before you were able to get it. That's the point. When it comes to the Chinese, before they move into a certain country that has to do with their first time moving into that country, first of all, they have delegate. I know the Chinese, we're going to say that the Chinese are, they have a government, they are a communist nation, they have this, they have all of that. But listen, you can do that on your own. First of all, you can go first of all and make your investigation, make your observation. If you don't have anybody to do that for you, or if you don't have no friends or nobody on the continent, which I encourage, networking is very important. So when you're going into a country for the first time, I think you might want to have a network, or you might, network with the locals, or you go there yourself and you do all of this, carry out all of this investigation, study the market, study the people, study what they like, study what can strive, what type of business you think you can create that can strive, in those areas or in this particular area. You need to study about all of these things. You need to study what the people cannot do without what they really need. Not just what they want, what they actually need, and how they can depend on you or on your business. So once you start studying about all of these things and study, the challenges, that they are facing, study about all of it. So one of the things that we are not really striving, or we are not really, getting, is that group mindset, you see, because the Chinese, they work in group, they have these group economies, they have all of these things, they work in group. So we work individually, and we have an individualistic mindset. So what would take us, 5 years to achieve is going to take us to 10 to 20 years to achieve, because it has to do with just one person, one, mindset, one manpower or whatever. But whereas for the Chinese, they already have some people already there studying about the market, doing all of these things so that they can settle. And when they settle, they can be able to invite the other people who are coming. They will give you the ropes, like my friends used to have. They give you the ropes, they give you everything that you really need. They begin to tell you, these are the things you need to do. They already studied the people, they already studied the culture, they already studied the tradition, they study the behavioral pattern of the people, what, how they can approach, everything they study. So you see, so they will likely have problems with the locals or with the living in that environment and doing their business, because they're very smart when it comes to business, they're business conscious and all of that. So you see, so they work in group. And for instance, when they rent an apartment, you see, this is the group mindset I'm talking about. I'm just using this as an instance, particularly to Africans, maybe in the diaspora. How can we create jobs like this? When the Chinese, they rent an apartment, this is just one example. They're coming into a new country. You're coming to start life all over again. You're coming to start, you need to start, you need to calculate the cost. You need to do a lot of things, you see. And then when they come, maybe if the apartment is, for instance, $500, you see, they will need to. I'm not saying everybody can do this, but if we want to win and if we want to strike, there's some things we need, some observation we need to, and some things we need to observe and learn. Because observation is one way that I learned, you see. And then they rent this apartment, $500 one person. They invite maybe 10, 15 Chinese. They have these bunk beds, and they patronize Chinese restaurants when they go out to eat, and after their business or work, they come back, they just sleep, just a spot where they can sleep, until they get things situated, you see. Mm-hmm. Get things arranged and everything, and then they move out, because first your business wise, your business conscious and all of that. You don't need all of this flamboyant life and all of these things, because you have a purpose, mm-hmm. and they focus on the purpose. So when they do all of that, they eat from the Chinese restaurant, they will never patronize. They came with all of the, their clothes, their shoes that will last them for maybe a year. They don't dress really flashy. You might even see a billionaire Chinese, you hit him, you might not even know, because it's very simple the way he dress and all of that. I'm just giving an instance. But whereas for us, we have, we are rich, but our bank account is very poor. So you see, so when they do all of this, that's just the obvious facts, you see. So when we come to the continent, we want to show off certain, want to show off like, we don't have, and it's obvious that we don't have. So we can actually network and see what we can actually do. How can we come together to put our resources together and make things work? Because if you're waiting for just one person to do this thing, we are not moving forward. But how can we, brothers and sisters, pull your resources together and see how we can be able to work together? You see, jointfully, and then maybe you can break out, employ, do certain things and, break out. So this is one aspect we can actually create employment, but whereby something that, you want to do, maybe you want to open, for instance, a car, company or whatever, and you need certain amount of, capital to do that. And you don't have that. Maybe 5 of you can come together and put your resources together, get a lawyer, sign a contract, do whatever your policies, write down everything. And then, you do that and get it going. And then you create, other employment or opportunities for other people. You see, the locals are happy, everybody's happy, we are creating jobs. We can do this on our own and by ourselves. But whereby we don't trust ourselves to do nothing, we don't want to work with ourselves, we want to be a celebrity, an individual celebrity. We don't want to extend a hand. We don't want to help each other. We don't want to work together. So it is very easy for the outsiders to use that as a weapon against us, because they see that there is that force, that group force is not there, first of all. So you see, or we can keep complaining, or we can learn the game and be good at it and work on the game that, the same people we are complaining about, we can use their game and we can help ourselves. You see, this is just, my point. I don't know if I'm making sense anyway, but, this is just how I think.
You made a lot of sense today. And I ask you one last question. One of the things that I noticed, just going to Uganda, and I can honestly say that, a lot of times in the West, we are thought to believe that, people on the continent of Africa are not, sure, obviously there's some bright people there, but, we're kind of taught to think that, well, coming from our system, we're going to know more than them. And when I went to Uganda first, I instantly realized how false that was. But more or less what I noticed was the people were just as smart as anywhere else, but the opportunity was lacking for whatever reason. Maybe this person was a victim of nepotism and things like that. So what I noticed was that, there's a lot of talent that is just displaced. Appreciate the brilliance in a lot of young people in Africa, the drive and the work ethic. The people that can solve the problems in Africa are actually there, and they're just, some guys driving an Uber. Like, some of the most deep conversations I've ever had was a guy driving an Uber car. I'm like, why? Like, how are you driving an Uber? Guy can't find a job because he's the wrong tribe, or he's the on the wrong side of the political ideology. And I guess what I want to know from you is, because there's so much intellectual talent on the continent of Africa that's just not being utilized. What can we do as a group of people to start appreciating each other for the people who are very, very bright, people who are very, intelligent, because those are the people that solve the problems are the bright people. A lot of times I see they're the ones that's not in the position. How do we solve that?
I believe in Africans are really entrepreneurs. That is taught to us, or instilled in us from growing up, childhood and things like that. But again, we need to realize that the West, they came in. I'm not we don't need to really depend so much on the government, because like you use the Uber driver, like you're supposed to be, why are you doing Uber? But he can do that because that's a business. But he can do that, but he can make it big. Maybe he doesn't know how to go about it. That's where someone can actually coach him or something. He can, like, you can take classes, or you can do something online. You can do something and make it big, or register it, as a company setting, instead of just when he's made a lot of saved and make some capital, that is, and then he can start employing other people to work for him after he's done. It depends on the strategy and the plan, you see. But again, they need certain set of education, that will expose them to see that these opportunities, that you can utilize this opportunity in various ways. So what people, or what a lot of people usually do, particularly diasporas who are coming back to the continent, for some reasons, they use the continental Africans instead of helping them. You see, when we see ourselves as one, not literally, but to help each other by teaching and educating and making us see that and building our skills, or whatever. We are talented. The talent is there, like you said. The people who can build Africa are in the continent of Africa. But why is it that is not happening? Why is it that? Because we are depending, and they are not exposed. And not like they are not exposed. We are not seeing. We need to teach them and bring that. So that we can be interdependent with one another. But I don't really know how to put this. But again, what I'm trying to say is that let us help our people, that you see that they have the skills, but they don't know how to go about it.
Right.
You see, when you have the exposure, you see that when you put this thing in certain way, this is what is going to happen for you. But they don't know that. They don't have the strategy. They don't know how to go about it.
Right.
But this is where the diaspora now can come in and teach them, and tell them, oh, you can do this to do that, or you can do this and get this and do that. You help yourself in return.
Right.
You see, this is where we need that influence, the diaspora influence, so that our people can see certain opportunities and utilize it. You see, because you might be sitting down in the midst of opportunities. You're talented, you have all the skills, but you don't know how to utilize it.
Right.
See? So that people can take a lot of advantage. You don't know how to advertise your business. You don't know how to to communicate properly in your business or whatever. But now, if you have that knowledge, you can be able to do all of these things and upgrade to second level or point. I don't know if I'm making sense, but
you're making a lot of sense. Like, you did a very, very, as we say in America, you did a yeoman's job today on this. This is a very powerful interview. I knew that you were very, very intelligent woman, and you had a lot of positions that were oblique. And that's one thing that on YouTube, if you can't do anything, be different. And you are definitely, and this is natural. This is not something that you're trying to fake or anything. This is really your positions, and I think you're very you're a great intellectual thinker. I think that a lot of people are going to receive a lot of knowledge from all across the continent by listening to your channel. I wouldn't be surprised next year if you were a lot bigger than what people might expect. So for those people who are going to subscribe to you from the Kingana channel, tell them what they should expect if they subscribe to the African Unite Force?
First of all, I want to give a special shout out to all the Kinganda gangs. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. But for those of you who are coming to my channel, I mean, know that it's about facts, it's about the truth, and it's about us educating ourselves, the right way. And it's not about feelings, it's not about emotions, because for so long feelings and emotions have done nothing for us, and it does not help us as a people. So it's high time we stop the blame game, and it's high time we put our feelings and our emotions aside so that we can actually think logically, and we can actually see our issue for what it is and deal with it. So if you want the truth, and if you're ready for the truth, and you're ready for facts and all of that, I mean, you're very much welcome to my channel. I have a lot of things and content that I'm creating yeah, for our people, so that we can grow together. So I believe in sharing knowledge, that we should not be stingy. We should share our knowledge with each and every one of us, and that will help us in whatsoever way that we can. And let's support each other. That's what I think.
All right. So you can check out the African Unite Force. We'll put the channel up, and you can go to the first comment at the top. Go subscribe and hit the bell. She's a very, very talented YouTuber. Just some really good streams, really interesting topics, and the way you can know if a content creator is really good is look at the topic to talk about. And so like I said, it's some of it's kind of controversial, but it's very, very good. She's an excellent YouTuber, and I hope that we can see her get larger and support her, because these are the voices that, I'm a controversial person too. I like people like this that are not, that will push the line, because too far in the Pan-African social media spaces is just too cookie cutter, and it's not what we need. We need more of an aggressive message on these platforms. People that's going to cross the line and offend people, and hopefully that it changes people to make change. Right? We need that, and so we have too much cookie cutter content there that's not doing enough. And I want to see that next level, in African Unite Force is definitely the next level. So any last words you have?
Yeah, my last word, it has to do with let us live in the now, and the now is our reality. So let us stop living in this illusion about what we think that we are, or as a people. So let us face our challenges, let us face our issues, and let us be comfortable enough to to address uncomfortable issues, talk about uncomfortable issues. For someone like me, I don't really come to the space of YouTube or whatever just to show what, if I'm beautiful, if I'm intelligent, or if I'm all of that. It doesn't matter. That's besides the point. So the point is that we should be able to work as a people, looking back from where we were before, and looking at where we are now. What were the changes? What were the changes that has occurred in our lives as Black people globally? So when we look at some of the mistakes that our ancestors have actually done, because I said in learning history, let's not just look at what, the good aspect of our ancestors, what they did. We will praise them and we'll say, okay, but let's look at their mistakes and the things that they didn't do well. Otherwise, we being on YouTube talking about all this Pan-Africanism and all of this, it might be a waste of time. So let's make sure that we are on the right course, and we are looking, the failures of our ancestors, so that we this generation, we can correct that, so that our future generation, that has to do with our children, so that they can be able to have a better life, they can be able to be totally free, because I know we are in chains mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and otherwise. So for us to be truly free, it starts with an individual freedom. So a collective freedom, it is going to happen, hopefully, but realistically, I don't think so. But let's, see how we can, start working on ourselves and on ourselves and our minds. Because I said, as Black people, our conscious mind has been conquered. So let's see how we can be able to work on that aspect and see how we can regain consciousness, So that's the only way we can actually strive and tell ourselves the truth. So the first people you can tell the truth, you start with yourself. And then, you can now be truthful to the next person. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my mom used to always tell me you can lie to other people, but it's always bad when you lie to yourself. So,
right.
So I thank you for coming on, guys. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, and always remember, keep it real, King Ghana forever. We're out.
Thank you.